Hi, everyone. My name is Chasey Packer, and I work with Spectrum Services, which is a private organization specializing in helping children and adults with neurodiversity challenges, autism, ADHD, anxiety, that kind of thing. Anyway, I'm an LPC, and I'm going to give you a little presentation, as well as two of my colleagues, Kristen Trocin and Cindy, will also be giving some presentations on this video to share with you. And as well as Sal from Autism Society, he will also be out there, and he is going to share some real life tips on, just some ideas on how to function in this time of staying at home or trying to transition into getting back out there, that kind of thing. So basically what I wanted to talk to you about, and what Cindy and Kristen will also be covering, we're going to be talking about the 3 M's. And so I'm going to cover the first M, which is mindfulness. And also within mindfulness, I'll be able to talk a little bit about motivation. So when you think about mindfulness, well, actually, before I get started on mindfulness, I also think I need to remind us that these are general suggestions. Like, it's an educational general suggestions. If it doesn't work for you, we understand, but, pick what works for you. If it works, take it, run with it. So we really want you to think about what's best for you and your family and your loved one. So basically, thinking about the 3 M's, back to that, mindfulness, movement, mastery. So those are the 3 we're going to cover. And I'm going to deal with mindfulness and a little bit onto motivation as well, because I really think mindfulness is the key to motivation. For us to be truly motivated, we have to be aware of what our needs are, So mindfulness, sounds like a really great buzzword. You hear people use it all the time these days. It seems like it's out there quite a bit. And, it really is something that we don't always think about, though. It's about being really present, being really aware of what you're doing in that moment, in the here and now. And just generally easily put awareness, because awareness is key. And so through awareness, we can make better decisions for ourselves. Through awareness, we can set reasonable expectations. Through awareness, we can realize what we need, what's going on with ourselves and with our environment, and what makes sense. With that awareness, we can do better problem solving and things like that. So that's why mindfulness becomes, key to a lot of things. And it will become very important in movement and in mastery, which are the other 2 M's that we're going to talk about. So some activities that you can do to address mindfulness would be body scanning. So checking in with your body, like from head to toe, what does your body need? Especially like if you're on the computer, you can do a body scan, or you can even do an environmental scan with your senses, using your senses. What is your environment telling you? Like if you're on the computer, which right now it's so easy. It's like, oh, I have all this screen time, I can do these things. But at the same time, your body takes a toll. It takes a toll on your mind too. And so, even though it can be fun to have screen time, it also can, you get a stiff neck, or your eyes might hurt or burn, or maybe you haven't been on the computer that long, but the sunlight's coming in. And so you need to check in with your environment, and maybe there's something in the room that's off that can make it more comfortable for you. So really just using your senses, your smell, your taste, your touch, your hearing, sight, all of that to make better decisions for yourself throughout the day, as well as checking in with your body, really understanding where you might be having aches and pains, or what you might need to do to adjust to make things more comfortable for yourself. Another component of mindful, or another activity that helps us stay grounded in the present and in the here and now, is mindful eating. I'm guilty. I like my food. And, especially during this time, like we're home a lot, right? I mean, we're home, we're sitting, it's just like, and it's so easy to just grab an entire bag of popcorn, sit down on the couch and start eating, right? But mindful eating requires that, you really take the time to think about what it is you're doing. So if you find yourself just automatically at the refrigerator door staring into the abyss of the light in the fridge, it's like, maybe that's when you might need to think about, okay, what am I really doing here? Am I really hungry? Do I really want something salty, or do I want something sweet? Or maybe I'm just bored, maybe I'm just bored and I need to go do some movement, or I need to work on some mastery things. So really trying to be aware of what you need. And if it is that you really are hungry, have some fun with it, try to have some fun with it, making yourself those nachos, or, that specific meal, try to really take your time with preparing it, and really kind of giving food the respect that it deserves, because it's your fuel, right? So maybe trying to make it look a little prettier, or get a little creative with it, making shapes, I don't know, some fun stuff with it. Anyway, but trying to be more intentional, and that really, like mindfulness, that awareness, being intentional, making decisions for yourself with full understanding of why you're doing it. And so that's why this is a key to motivation. So when you think about motivation, it is about motivation is something that can be a little challenging, right? It either comes from being emotionally passionate about something, or it comes from discipline, or it comes from setting routines for yourself and being able to check things off your list. But if you think about it, part of motivation, the part of what takes away our motivation is sometimes if we don't have reasonable expectations. So thinking about it, like if we're setting these unreasonable expectations that we're going to write a novel in 2 weeks and we've never written, a short story, that might be an unreasonable expectation of us, right? So making sure that we set reasonable expectations. But also a part of setting reasonable expectation is also understanding that it's also not a time where we can just like lay in bed all day and, just sit on our computers and, our phones. And I mean, I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. But at the same time, it's like we have to set some sort of routine in place for ourselves. And that's where making those better decisions for ourselves. Maybe it's not a strict routine. Some people have to have a very strict routine and they feel comfortable with that. Other people, if they can get up between 8 and 10 a.m., that's enough for them. They have a window, and just like set ideas of what they're going to be doing throughout the day can be really helpful. So that can really help with motivation, as well as, just sorry, I'm losing track. I've got a few more things I want to get out here, but just in general, try to have fun with it. Be reasonable. This is a tough time. Understanding that when you go to the store and you are out, that there's going to be changes now, that people are going to be wearing masks, that things might take a little longer. And you might get less achieved, so being able to set those goals to where they're attainable is very important. And preparing as you go and you make these changes into your life, preparing for that.
My name is Cindy Spencer, and I'm a licensed clinical counselor, a board-certified behavior analyst, and a certified therapeutic recreation specialist with Spectrum Services. Today, I'm going to talk about one of the 3 M's, movement. First, we're going to talk about how movement helps. Movement begins to help us with self-regulation. It increases appropriate motor behaviors and decreases behaviors related to stereotypy and self-stimulation. It also decreases behaviors related to escalation and aggression. Next, movement helps us emotionally by improving our mood. It helps us to self-calm and increases our self-concept, therefore increasing our self-confidence and our sense of being capable. It increases our sleep and helps decrease symptoms related to depression, anxiety, and hyperactivity. It also decreases our frustration levels as well. Movement helps us socially by increasing our social motivation. It helps us increase social participation and cooperation with others. Movement also helps us in participating in our community. Movement helps decrease isolation and decrease antisocial behaviors. And we'll talk about ways that we can do that later. Movement helps us in our academic and employment realm by increasing our ability to focus and pay attention to our task. It also increases our alertness and helps us engage with others and engage with our task. It helps increase cognitive functioning and executive functioning. Therefore, we're better able to problem solve and make decisions. Movement also decreases our distractibility. It decreases disruptive behaviors and helps decrease other antisocial behaviors that could be occurring in the classroom or in the work environment. Of course, movement helps us physically. It helps increase our mobility and improve our fine and gross motor functioning. Movement also helps increase our strength, flexibility, and endurance, all of which are things that help us be more independent. Movement decreases obesity, diabetes, and sleep disturbances as well. So movement and exercise help us fall asleep and stay asleep, which is really important in keeping us healthy. Now we're going to talk about how to implement movement in our day. First of all, it's really important to build movement in as a part of our routine. For example, we go for a walk after breakfast, or we go outside in the backyard and exercise before dinner. Things that are routine and consistent either every day are easier for us to continuously implement. It's also important that we have a lot of choices. So movement doesn't have to be the same thing every day. It could be something different. It could be stretching. It could be yoga. It could be walks and hikes. It could be shooting baskets. So it's important to have a variety of things that we enjoy doing to help us move. It's also really great to have structure or a count to what we're doing. So for example, we're going to walk to the end of the block and then turn around. Or we're going to do 10 jumping jacks and then we're going to do 10 push-ups. So having a concrete count or structure really helps with movement. A lot of times it's more difficult to say, okay, I'm going to move for 15 minutes. That can be really hard and time is typically really abstract. So having a concrete count, again, is really helpful. It's also great to have some reinforcement. So something that you have to look forward to after you get out and move your body or exercise and complete a workout is really helpful. Consistency is key. So moving every day. So again, that's why it's really important to build it as a part of our routine so that it becomes consistent and we're more likely to do it every day if it's a part of a sequence of activities that we do. And of course, most importantly, it's important that it's fun. So pick things that you like to do. If you don't like running, don't go running. Or if you don't like going for walks when it's really hot and sunny, wait and go in the evening. A lot of us are night owls and it's really nice to get outside in the evening. And another way you can implement movement is to disguise it. So for example, walking to the mailbox, doing some functional tasks like getting outside and gardening or taking things out. Going up and down the stairs, things that are more functional stacks. Another strategy is to implement movement in a disguise, like a part of a functional task. So getting outside and working in the yard or walking over to the mailbox or maybe walking a little further to another mailbox. So those are all ways that we can build movement into our day. So ideas for movement, especially right now where we're in quarantine, there are a lot of apps related to movement. There are also a lot of videos on YouTube or exercise plans on Pinterest as well. So the internet has a wealth of information on how you can do some at-home exercises as well as get outside. One great thing you can do right now is a scavenger hunt. You can look up a lot of these on Pinterest or online, just a simple nature scavenger hunt, and see how much you can find when you're out on a walk or a hike in your area. What do you see? What types of flowers? What types of animals? What types of plants or bushes or trees? So taking a look at those things as well. You can do a scavenger hunt in your neighborhood or in your yard or just in your community. Another great thing that a lot of people are doing right now is with sidewalk chalk. So getting outside and writing messages or creating art on the sidewalks for your neighbors or friends. is a really great idea to get out and move around. Other things that you can do is deliver. So this is also taking in safety precautions. So making sure that you're wearing a mask and other precautions that are recommended right now. But you can do things like deliver cards and notes or baked goods. You can also deliver books or exchange books and magazines. A lot of neighborhoods and areas have a little library that is built on the side of the road. So you can walk up to that spot and exchange books and magazines, and making sure that you're keeping everything clean. So those are some ideas of how we can implement exercise right now. Some other key things about movement right now is that it gives us all a break from technology. A lot of us are bound to technology every day, either for work, school, or even just entertainment. And so it's really important to be able to take a break from technology. Another thing is it's important to get outside and get fresh air and sunshine. And lastly, an important aspect of movement is its grounding. So Chasey talked a lot about this in the mindfulness segment. Grounding helps reduce rumination and perseveration, which basically means we're getting out of our own heads. So movement is really great about that. It helps decrease depression and anxiety and redirect our thoughts from that continuous loop. So those are some of the ways that movement can help us in one of the 3 M's. And again, my name is Cindy Spencer. We also have a handout that the Autism Society will be posting for you guys. And the title of the handout is The Benefits of Exercise for Autism Spectrum Disorders. So take a look at that for some more ideas about movement. And I'm going to pass it on to Kristen, who will be talking about mastery.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Trocin. I'm a licensed psychologist at Spectrum Services, and I'm going to be talking about the 3rd M, mastery. Before we get started, just a reminder that this session is for informational and educational purposes and is not intended to be a substitute for professional psychological, psychiatric, or medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. These ideas may work for some individuals, but not others. So again, I'll be speaking about the 3rd M, mastery. What is mastery? Mastery is the feeling of empowerment that comes from achievement. Achievement doesn't have to be something big to be meaningful. It can be as small as completing our everyday routines. Mastery can also increase a sense of control of yourself and your surroundings. During quarantine, you may find yourself losing momentum or feeling unmotivated. Know that this is completely normal. I'll talk about some ways to increase your sense of mastery and confidence during this time. So the first strategy we're going to talk about is maintaining a routine or schedule. Routine can be easy to lose during times like the present because we don't have as many things in our daily schedule. We might not be going to work or to school, and so it can be easy to lose our sense of routine. So initially, you can focus on small ways to add structure to your day. It can be as simple as waking up and going to bed at the same time each day, or eating meals at consistent times each day. You may choose to keep a calendar or other type of visual or written schedule if that's helpful for you. And it can be important to include things in your routine that you feel good about, things that help you feel accomplished and capable. These can be self-care activities or other things that you're good at or that you enjoy. You may want to include the other M's, daily meditation or movement, as part of your routine. So for example, if you enjoy drawing, you can include that as part of your daily routine. In your routine, it can also be helpful to limit things that increase your stress or decrease your sense of mastery. So watching the news is a good example of this for many people. While some amount of news can be helpful and keeps us feeling informed, too much can be overwhelming. Some people have been wondering how to cope with obsessing over bad news. Limiting news and social media exposure during certain times of the day is a good strategy for this. So for example, you may limit yourself to 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening, and this can be really helpful. Another strategy is to schedule a worry time during your day, a time of day when you allow yourself a short period of time to discuss the news with others or to look at the news. The second strategy we're going to be talking about is focusing on what you can control. In this time, it can be tempting to focus on what other people are doing. So what is my neighbor doing? Or what is someone on the street doing? Focusing too much on others can lead to feeling frustrated and helpless. Instead, you can focus on what you can do. So think about what you have control over. Write it down or say it out loud to yourself. You might say, I can wash my hands, I can practice social distancing, I can wear a mask, and I can learn to work remotely from home. The third strategy is to set realistic, manageable goals. And this usually means starting really small or breaking a task into smaller parts. So again, we want to increase that feeling of achievement. So remember that goals don't have to be big to be meaningful. They can be anything that increases the sense of mastery. Some common goals include working toward cooking a meal or tidying up a room in your home. This is another time when making it visual or writing it down can be helpful. When writing a goal or an intention, it can help to be as specific as possible. For example, you might want to identify meditating for 5 minutes a day each morning as a goal. Remember that our behaviors have momentum. The more we engage in an activity, the more momentum we have. So even by starting small, you can build up confidence and you can remind yourself that you're capable. And finally, remember to be kind to yourself during this time. There may be days where you're feeling motivated and others where you're not. That's completely normal. Hopefully, some of these strategies are helpful in increasing your sense of mastery and confidence. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Sal Silinonte. I'm a behavior therapist, parent of an autistic child. I'm the board member for the Autism Society of Texas and the leader of the Autistic Adult Advisory Panel and self-advocate. Those last two mean that I'm an autistic adult, those of you who didn't know. That said, I'm going to be including both my personal and professional experiences and opinions in my segment. And one other thing, I also run a relatively large online support group for autistic adults. You need to contact me for the group information. You can do so by using my email address, which is going to be included in the links which are included with this video and on our Facebook page and website. Or you can use the Ask an Autistic Adult link because I'm the one who maintains that page as well. First of all, I just want to say that when I saw all of the contribution to this presentation, it was quickly apparent that they were coming from well-educated, experienced people who genuinely get it and really work to help those of us on the spectrum to live our best lives. I know not all autistic people are the same, so not every solution I've come up with will perfectly apply to everyone out there. But these are the ways that I've been able to take advantage of what works for me during social distancing. With regards to movement, this doesn't really apply to any specific movement, but I took the term movement kind of literally. You know, really any behavior that you can reinforce or shape, there's got to be some sort of movement to it. And whether it's something as simple as being able to alter your routine to deal with the isolation some of us are in right now, most of us, I guess, or it's something like adapting a specific activity. Movement for a lot of people means exercise. For me, it does too. You know, I can't necessarily go to the gym or go for a jog where I'd like to because those places aren't necessarily safe right now. But I can lift weights at home, and I can run circles around my coffee table if I have to. But it's more important, I think, that I've done something to adapt to my situation so that I can have a new routine to help me get through with stuff. And, you know, it also, it does speak to mastery in the technical sense of meeting a specific criteria with a behavior. and in the more general sense. In that I may not be a master at all of the exercises that I do, but I have mastered exercising a certain number of times a week. I have mastered exercising a certain number of minutes a day. It's become something that is now just every day and part of my life. And when everything is open and it is safe to go back to the gym and go jogging, it might take me a little while to get used to that, but it's going to be easier because I'm going to have practice having adapted things already. And again, it doesn't matter if you're talking about exercise. And even if you are, it doesn't matter if you're just talking about getting up and stretching once in a while. If you just make sure you do something that you feel you need to do or that you want to do on a regular basis. One activity actually that covers movement, mindfulness, and mastery, or one group of activities would be self-care activities. You know, taking the time to make sure you're clean and everything's made up in your room and put away, and, you know, take those extra steps that may take a little longer, but are really nice to do for yourself. And when you make something like that routine, then you have a whole bunch of things to be more mindful of in a row, a whole new set of activities in one category. And speaking of mindfulness, being mindful comes natural to a lot of autistic people in kind of specific ways. You know, some of us are just really great at being mindful or being self-aware. Some of us can see some details better than others, and some of us need a little help. But however mindful or self-aware you already are as a person, it's something that you can practice. You know, you can do little things that also, would fall under the movement category, counting your steps, counting your breaths, counting how many steps it is from your couch to your kitchen, just little things like that. You can teach yourself to focus on new details. You can teach yourself to pick up on new things. And you can also teach yourself to be more aware of what's affecting you. See, I personally, I actually have a bit of an issue with some of my emotional self-awareness. So I actually use a smartwatch that keeps track of my heart rate and my stress. And when I start to feel uneasy, but I can't tell why, I can check. And if my heart is racing or my stress is through the roof, I know there's something wrong that I can't quite yet define, but that maybe before I start feeling upset actively, or before I have a meltdown or something along those lines, maybe it might be time to find some place nice and quiet and dim to sit down and just take a few breaths till I'm calm. So, it doesn't so much matter how mindful you are or how mindful you are right now. It matters that you try to be mindful. And, one specific thing for me that I have to be mindful of during this time is the amount of news and the kind of news that I take in. There's just so much scary news out there right now that I have found myself limiting myself to a certain number of negative stories before I have to either go find some sort of article about some silver lining, or something positive that's happening right now, or just actual pictures of puppies and kittens, just something nice to distract me for a few seconds. It's about doing what you can for your own mental health when some of our usual options are limited. A lot of people like to go for a nice long walk, and maybe you can't right now because your neighborhood's too crowded. A lot of people are in places where you are just not allowed to go out and do anything. And a lot of places are just difficult to maintain social distancing. So being mindful and dealing with your mental health it's paramount. Well, and speaking of things that are paramount, a quick note about masks. We know that a lot of people are struggling with masks, especially autistic people. A lot of us have sensory issues that make masks unbearably uncomfortable. And I personally like the added pressure of the face masks that I have, but I have had face masks that were literally painful and that attached in ways that made me so uncomfortable that I had to fight to not just tear it off. So, the best thing you can do is just try and find some material or some pressure that is tolerable to you or your child, and then build on that. I've seen masks made from t-shirt sleeves just pulled down over people's heads so they covered up the nose and mouth. I've seen them made more intricately with a sewing machine and pattern out of the same material. Someone put a DIY video online about turning the tip of a sock into a mask if you wanted something a little more soft and fluffy. And, for those of you or those of us on the spectrum who, like I said, respond positively to pressure as a stimulus, there are plenty of masks that you can find that either are not uncomfortable to wear, behind the ears or behind the head, and or devices that you can use to help clip the straps together so they're not pulling on your body so much as they are pulling on themselves. And then the pressure itself can actually be comforting for some of us. So if you find deep pressure and things like weighted blankets to be helpful, then a mask may actually be pretty easy. And I have a question here from our Q&A. It says, how can autistic adults stay connected and supported? Give a few examples. And okay. Well, one thing that I want to say is that one of those silver linings, like I spoke about before, of all this is that it's validated a lot of the friendships a lot of us on the spectrum have had for a long time. A lot of us struggle with face-to-face interactions, but are okay online. And for a long time, people were like, oh, but those aren't real friendships. And, now you've got online connections leading to real support, and this time when everyone was online, if you have an interest, gaming, for example, you can just search for a group with the same interest, or you can look for support groups even with the same interest. I personally, when the stay-at-home orders were issued for our county, I went on Facebook and I started a gaming group and invited all my friends, and we've been exchanging memes for weeks now and cheering each other up. And it was just one little thing that I did that helps me maintain my sanity in this time. But I've also seen like gaming support groups, like support groups that you were asked if you were autistic and if you had a PlayStation or an Xbox before you were allowed to be in the group. So, you can find groups, you can create groups. Right now, it's not for lack of options. If there's anything that interests you and you want to stay connected or meet people, you don't have to leave your house now. You don't have to go and talk to strangers and worry about fumbling words or getting names wrong. You can just go online and make new friends. And that said, we are listing a lot of ideas on the post with this video. We're also listing links for all of our existing support groups and social groups, and for the Ask an Autistic Adult page. We hope you find this helpful. We'll get back to you. Thank you.